Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. Today we're continuing our series. I'm going through and reviewing all the different citizenship by investment programs. I'm going to do all the official ones and the unofficial ones for you. So I don't know, there'll be like 10, 15, somewhere in that range, whatever it works out to being, that I'm going to go through and review. We've already started with the first couple. So if you haven't checked them out, you can go back and look at those videos. I believe we've done Vanuatu and Turkey. But today we're going to do our first one in the EU. We're going to have, I don't know, I guess 4 or something in the EU, because we're going to include some unofficial ones. And this one we're going to cover is not, you might not even really call it a citizenship by investment program, but they apply that term, so I'm going to mention it. It's one that people don't talk a lot about. And there's actually some really good things about it. There's a few things that are not so good about it. That is Bulgaria. So in this video, I'm going to go through, I'm going to cover for you, I'm going to let you know what does it cost, what are the benefits associated with it, what are the drawbacks associated with it? Why you might or might not want to take action right now because there's some changes coming up that are really important. Then how does it compare to some of the others? What do I think about it? How do I rank it? And I'm going to do this for all the different citizenship investment programs over the next little while. So anyway, stay tuned, check it out. Before we get started though, if you haven't already, please smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this video with your friends, share our videos with your friends, really helps us out, really appreciate that. If you're at all interested in these subjects, so how to get a second citizenship, what second citizenship is best for you, relocating, getting other residencies, how to pay the lowest legal amount of tax possible, how to structure your business to pay lower tax, your investments to pay lower tax, etc., taking advantage of asset protection, forming international companies, opening international bank accounts, etc. Please reach out to us. You can book a call with me, clarity.fm/Michael Rosmer. There's a link below in the description. Or you can check out our websites, offshorecitizen.net and offshorecapitalist.com. All right, let's see. Let's jump in. So first of all, let's just talk about kind of the obvious thing, which is, as a general rule, EU citizenships are pretty good citizenships across the spectrum, right? So if we look at, in the world of citizenship by investment programs, we have 5 in the Caribbean that are official. There's 1 in the South Pacific, which is Vanuatu. Then you've got stuff like Turkey, right? Then you start getting into some of the other ones that are unofficial, Georgia, Ukraine, possibly you could say Moldova, Bolivia, something like Mongolia, places like this. Ones that are pretty low quality citizenships, right? So for me, I come from Canada. I already have a pretty good citizenship, and somebody might say, okay, well, why would you want another one? Well, I think it's good to have a good quality backup, right? If you're coming from, say, the US, you're like, all right, I want to renounce my citizenship. Do you want to go from a US citizenship to a Turkish citizenship? It's up to you, right? Totally up to you. So Bulgaria is a pretty good citizenship. I think on paper, and you can play around with how they calculate this because they consider visa on arrival, electronic visas, etc., all kind of in this basket, but it's like 171 countries visa-free. The important thing to note is they include Canada, they include Australia, they include New Zealand, they include Japan, they include Brazil, they include Mexico, they include Russia. So a lot of really kind of the rarer countries to get access to. You get, plus of course, all the EU, and UK, right? So very good visa coverage. You don't have China, you don't have South Africa, although people tend to be able to get access there pretty easily anyway. And they don't have the US, right? So the US is kind of like the big holdout of the ones that are hard to get that people would often like to have. So it's quite a good citizenship from that standpoint, all right? Now, let's talk about the program. The program, I wouldn't even really call it a citizenship by investment program because it's more like a fast track citizenship program. You make an investment, and it's actually a legitimate investment, right? So you're actually getting the money back. It's not a donation. But as you're going to discover in a minute, I'll go through the timelines with you. Even in the best case scenario, you're talking about getting 18 months to go through the initial process, and then you still are going to have some time to process the paperwork. So you're realistically talking like maybe 2 years to get this citizenship, which is not that fast, all right? However, if we compare it to Malta, right, which is kind of the other official one in the EU, Malta's not fast either, right? It's kind of 12 to 18 months. Again, I'll do a review on the Maltese program for you so you can understand that. But in that case, you actually give up a ton of money. So let's talk about how this one works. So here what you're doing is you're doing a bond investment, all right? Now it's 1 million Bulgarian levs, all right, is the basic investment, which is 512,000 euros. Okay, so fairly substantial, but that doesn't get you the 18. So basically you have two kind of paths in the Bulgarian one. If you put the 512,000, you buy bonds at 512,000 euros, okay, then what you end up with is you can get citizenship in 5 years. All right, you get permanent residency very quickly, right? So you're set up pretty solid in terms of, okay, you have access to Bulgaria, you don't have to worry about it, you don't have minimum stay requirements, etc. That's good, but you don't get citizenship quickly. So in this sense, the real comparison point is not, one of the others like Hungary, which has an unofficial program. I'll do something on it in the future. It's not really like Cyprus, which their program got closed down, or Malta. It's more like Portugal, right? More like the Golden Visa program there. So in that sense, I mean, okay, you can put money into bonds. Maybe that's attractive for you, right? Citizenship isn't quite as good as Portugal's, but still, like I said, pretty good. Now, one advantage is when you do this path, you don't have to pass a Bulgarian language test. Okay, that's like the big thing I would say that is advantageous for you. So if we were to compare that to, say, just going the residency path, because you could go the residency path in Bulgaria, you can pretty easily get a residency permit. If you're somebody from the EU, then you have to go and you have to say, okay, great, I'm going to. It's pretty easy, basically, is the bottom line. But if you're not, then it's you go through a bit of a process. It's not that hard, right? Takes, a couple thousand, 3,000 euros or something maybe, depending on how many people are involved in your application, things like this. But you have to renew every year. In this one, you don't have to renew every year, right? You don't actually get permanent residency in that case. In this case, you do. And at the end of that one, if you eventually want to go through the path to citizenship, you have to pass a Bulgarian language test. And do you want to do that? I don't know. Whereas here, you don't have to go through the requirement for a Bulgarian language test. That's really cool. You get permanent residency right away. What's the cost? The cost is you're tying up some money. There's a little bit higher legal fees up front. You're talking about 10 to 15,000 euros to go through the legal fees process of it. So nothing too crazy. If you were to think about it, if you were to go and do the Golden Visa program in Portugal, you would have an investment, and then on top of that, you would have legal fees that are similar, actually probably slightly higher in Portugal in that case, depending on what all pieces you include. So in that sense, not bad. So what people are probably interested in, though, usually is the fast track version. The fast track version compresses that from like the 5 years down to about 18 months. What's the downside of this? Well, the downside of it is you pay twice as much. Okay, so you have to, instead of investing 512,000 euros, you have to, what actually happens is you can make the initial investment and then you add to the investment later after like a year or something, right? So, okay, you now tie up this money and you have to tie it up. It's not just until you get citizenship, it goes on somewhat longer than that. But anyway, that's another conversation. So you tie up a little over 1 million euros, 1,024,000 euros, right? Because it's 2 million Bulgarian levs, and the lev is pegged to the euro, and it's like 1.95. There's some other decimals after it, but 1.95 to 1 is the ratio, okay? Okay, cool, great, you got that. And you can get this in theory, 18 months. In practice, it's a little bit longer. Now, that's not too bad, right? If you've got the money to tie up, if you're willing to put it into bonds, etc. Now, there's a few reservations that I want to cover off with you guys before I go to the update of, why you might want to do this now if you want to do it at all. And then I'll also talk about, who this probably doesn't want this, okay? So the first problem with this that one might have is they might say, well, hang on, is my money safe, right? So these are government bonds. Now, they're government bonds, but it's not like, US government bonds, It's not like Australian government bonds. It's Bulgarian government bonds. Now, is that likely to default? Pretty low, right? It's a decently high quality bond. So the likelihood that you get your money back is pretty high. But you are taking a certain degree of credit risk. When they say, US government bonds have zero credit risk, I would say that there is some credit risk, not a large amount, but a minor amount of credit risk with Bulgarian government bonds. Now, the good news is you don't have to buy these through a Bulgarian exchange. You can actually buy the bonds on a German stock exchange. Okay, so that's really a useful thing in terms of kind of accessibility and the quality of markets and so on and so forth, right? So that's a good part. Okay, you're tying up the money there. All right, not the end of the world. There are some programs people will offer where they can help to finance you and you end up paying a whole bunch extra. There's something similar in Malta. I'll do a video on that in the future as well. But bottom line is, you could just pay a whole bunch of extra fees and lose that money, but not have to put up the €1,000,000. That's possible. Totally up to you, right? So that's the one part. Now the other drawback that I think is somewhat significant is this actually does not apply to your whole family. So although you can basically then bring your family members in as dependents, it's not like in Malta where you're like, okay, great, we're getting 4 people, right? You have something similar in Hungary. It's typical in the Caribbean. Maybe you have an initial donation of X dollars for the first person, and then you add the next person adds a nominal amount, and then you add a couple dependents, adds another nominal amount. That's not the case here when we're looking at the Bulgarian program. Okay, in the Bulgarian program, you get it, and then you can bring them under you, that is your dependents, right? So your spouse and your children. And so it's not amazing in that respect. They basically come under a separate piece. And so, yeah, just not really fantastic in that regard. What is the other piece that's worth noting here? Well, they are talking about closing this program. So they've mentioned this for a while now, which is why I'm a little bit hesitant to say that it is or isn't going to close. I actually just double checked on it a few days ago, and as of now, it still hasn't happened. They've been saying for, I don't know, maybe like a couple of years they were going to end this program. What has happened that's a little bit different this time is they have had a first voting on it, and they've voted to terminate the program. Now, there's some talk that if they get rid of it, they're going to bring another one back. We're going to find out, right? The second voting probably isn't going to happen for a number of months. Okay. By the way, when I say that they're voting to end it, they're not ending the 500,000 5-year thing. That will remain in place. This is the fast track. So what we're going to call this is we're going to call it a fast track citizenship program. And so yeah, they're voting to quite possibly end the fast track. So if you at all wanted to take advantage of it, you would want to run in there and get it done right away quickly. That would be pretty important. And we're going to see whether it happens or not. And we'll also see whether they come out with something different. It'll be interesting to see after this year with the changes of budget, whether they decide, hey, listen, they'd like the capital. We're going to find out. I think we're going to see a lot of changes in Europe in that regard. The last thing that's worth noting here that's really, really good about this program is when you get a Bulgarian citizenship, yeah, you get good visa-free travel, okay? But you don't just get that. This is an EU citizenship. So you have the right to live and work anywhere in the EU, in all 28 EU member states. They're not a Schengen country at this point in time, so when you have the permanent residency, it's not a Schengen visa. It doesn't entitle you to have access to all the other Schengen zone. Obviously, you can travel there under your normal restrictions of 3 months every 6 months, but you don't get the access that you do from the visa-free, basically as somebody who's a European citizen. Okay, so when you're an EU citizen, great, that's fantastic. That's going to give you a ton of flexibility. And this is one of the reasons I rank these passports quite a bit higher than some of the competitor ones. It's just because I look at visa-free travel as one portion of it. Then I also look at where you can live and work as another part of it. Then obviously you can take advantage of the medical, and you can take advantage of the education for kids and so on and so forth, right? Bulgaria is a place that has quite a good tax regime at this point in time. It's a flat 10% tax. I've mentioned in other videos, there's no reason you should pay more than 7.5% if you know how to plan properly. If you don't know, reach out to us. We're happy to help you structure it so that you shouldn't pay more than 7.5% tax, okay? And 5% on dividends. So again, pretty attractive. Anyway, that's kind of a basic look at this program. In my opinion, how would I rank this? There's a reason that this is not that popular a program. That's what I would tell you, okay? The big drawbacks being, first of all, the amount of money that you have to tie up is fairly substantial, right? The time that it takes to get it is certainly not slow, or certainly not fast, sorry. And the lack of ability to bring your family members in directly under you, as like, hey, just they're getting the citizenship same as you. Those 3 things I think are fairly significant drawbacks. That being said, if you're talking about actual out-of-pocket costs to you, this is the cheapest EU citizenship you can get within that time period. Again, not counting the opportunity cost of your money, right? So in that sense, very attractive. I've seen when they kind of originally announced that they were going to close the program down, it seemed to become popular with the Chinese crowd, and there's quite a few people coming in to get it. Fair enough. I think that if you're in the right position, it could be really good for you. But if you want to take advantage of that fast track, definitely do so really quickly. Otherwise, hey, look, you know what? If you're going to do it over 5 years, well, now you're competing with Portugal, which is a slightly better passport. You're competing with places like Malta. They have their permanent residency or indefinite residency scheme. You're competing with a few of these. So, pros and cons. Again, we'll rank it out. But yeah, for me, it's a great passport, not a great program. That's, I guess, how I would describe it. And yeah, if you want help with this or you're interested in any of the other programs, please reach out to me. You can book a call, clarity.fm/Michael Rosmer. There's a link below, or send us an email. Reach out to us, offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com. If you haven't already, smash the subscribe button, click the notification bell. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with your friends. If you didn't like the video, please tell us in the comments. And if you have any topic you'd like us to cover, please also mention that in the comments. I'm going to see you guys on the next video.